Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, welcome. Today I'm going to be telling you guys my birth story, so if you're interested, keep watching. Alright guys, so I was induced September 7th of this year. Let's start at about 27 weeks. I believe that is when my daughter started measuring about a week or two small. They said that it was just most likely that I'm not a big person. Big babies don't run in my family, because I mean they couldn't find anything. Nothing is wrong with my daughter. She was born 6 pounds 1 ounce, so she wasn't even that tiny, but they thought she was gonna be tiny. So I started seeing a high-risk doctor and my regular OB weekly. Now my appointments are Friday. That matters later on. So once I hit about, I believe I was 35 weeks, I went to my high-risk doctor. Their appointment was always first. They looked at the baby and everything. So that morning I was late. So I was running late to work. I was running late to the appointment. I didn't have time to eat. It was a whole mess. Okay. So I get to the appointment. My blood pressure is high. No surprise. But they were like, if your blood pressure is high after, we're probably gonna make you have your baby today. So I was freaking out. Like, I wasn't freaking out because, like, you know, I was gonna have my daughter, but I was freaking out because it was like I was not prepared to have a baby today. I was about to go back to work. So at the end of the appointment, they took my blood pressure again. Now they're doing it with a machine. It was still high, and he was like, okay, well, go to your OB. If it's still high, then you need to have her today. So I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm gonna calm down because you're telling me this, but whatever. Okay, get to my OB. They let me like sit down and chill for a little bit, and they manually took it, and it was fine. It was perfect. And she was like, you've never had any issues. I don't think that your blood pressure was that high. So I didn't have to have my baby that day, but I was so freaked out. I just went home. I didn't even go back to work. So the Friday before I had my daughter, I had my last appointment, and I was at a 3, and she was like, are you sure you want to go home? Do you want to, you know, stay for an hour or something, see how you feel? And I was like, well, I feel fine, so I think I'm just gonna go back home, and if anything, I'll come back. And she was like, okay, cool. I don't know if you're gonna make it through the weekend, but if you do, see you Monday. I made it through the weekend. So we were supposed to be there at 7 a.m. on September 7th. Me and my husband get all ready. We get in the car. I get a call from the hospital, and they're like, apparently everyone wanted to have their babies today, so we don't have any beds for you. Can you come later? We'll call you, you know, when you can come. So I'm like, okay, like my anxiety is already high, and now I gotta wait for y'all to call me to tell me to, okay, come have your baby now. So anyways, we get there. I was at like a loose 4, so I was already in active labor, didn't even know it. And the lady was like, do you want an epidural? And I was like, well, I didn't really want one. Like, I'm not against it, but I want to try to do it without it, just because I had heard, you know, so many people have problems with their back after, and I already had back problems. Like, my back already hurt all the time. She goes, oh, I'll make sure it hurts. And I was like, I mean, I'm sure you're joking, but what? So anyways, we had got there at like 8:35 a.m. By 9:45, they broke my water and turned on the Pitocin. I made it to about a 6 or a 7 before I got the epidural, and the only reason I got it at that point was because she told me, if you cannot sit still for your epidural, we're not going to give it to you. So my contractions were still bearable at that point, but they were still bearable at that point, but I don't know, I just changed my mind, and I was like, okay, let me get the epidural. Let me just get it now. I get the epidural. That went so smooth. Like, it just felt like a shot, and it was done. The guy's like, this will take about 30 minutes to kick in. But the nurse, the one who said that she would make it hurt, turns my Pitocin up? And I was like, you don't want to wait until it kicks in? And she was like, no, by the time it kicks in, then you would have started feeling the contractions from me turning this up. So I'm like, alright, well, my epidural didn't kick in 30 minutes. It took about 2 hours. So it starts working on my left side. Now these contractions are starting to get bad. I'm holding on to the bed rail. I'm sweating. I'm shaking. I ended up throwing up because I was hurting so bad during the contractions. They were coming so fast too. And I'm like, this is not working. Like, my left side is fine, but I can feel everything on my right side, and I'm gonna need it to work on my whole body. So they're like, okay, well, turn to your right so the medicine can drip to that side. So I'm like, okay. So they help me turn over. The baby's heart rate starts dropping. So they were like, well, you can't lay in that position. So I'm like, well, how? This needs to work on my whole body. What are we gonna do? I think I just ended up laying flat or whatever. It ended up kicking in, but like I said, it took forever. So that starts kicking in. Now with the epidural, you do still feel like the pressure. Like, I could still tell them when I was having a contraction, but it didn't hurt. And every time that button turned green to like give you more of the medicine, I was pushing it. Because I was like, no, like, I'm not trying to feel this. I'm gonna need it to work on my whole body. But it went fine. It came time for me to push at about, I feel like I pushed for a really long time actually. I think I started pushing at like 3 or 3:30 and I had her at 4:25. So I start pushing and I'm like talking through the whole thing. Like, I'm pushing, whatever. And I'm like, is she coming out anymore? Like, I feel like I've been pushing for a while. And my doctor's like, yeah, you're progressing. She's coming. And she just keeps saying like, oh my gosh, she has so much hair. She goes, I could put it in a little ponytail. So I ended up throwing up while I was pushing too, and she said that helped a lot though. So she's like, if you just throw up one more time, she'll probably be out. Like, I don't know, we were just talking, and she was like, you're making this seem like really easy for a first time. This other lady, this other doctor, she came in, and I think I asked again, like, is she making progress? Like, is she coming? And she grabs my hand and puts it on my baby's head. Like, her head is still inside me. Like, most of it. And so she puts my hand on her head. And the first thing I said, I was like, oh my god, that's softer than I thought it would be. I ended up, having her, obviously. Had her, and that same doctor that grabbed my hand tried to force my husband to cut the umbilical cord. He was like really queasy about it. And I was fine with him not doing it. I don't want him to like pass out or something. But she was really trying to force him to like take the stuff to cut it, and to the point where the doctor was like, he doesn't have to do it. It's fine. Like, we will do it. I didn't tear. I didn't have any complications. Nothing like that. Like, it went so smooth. Like, probably as smooth as it could have went, in my opinion. Like, I told my doctor maybe 2 appointments before how scared I was of tearing, and she was like, yeah, you're going to. Everybody tears. So I didn't tear, and she was like, let me get you cleaned up and like double check. And she was like, no, like, you didn't tear. I only bled for maybe like a week, if that. After that, it was like spotting, so I still wore the pad and everything, but like, I had no problems. I didn't really like, I breastfed, so like, you still have the contractions when you breastfeed because it's like contracting your uterus, I guess. That only lasted for me like 2 nights, and then I didn't really have any issues with that. I mean, I think maybe 3 days I took pain medicine, and then nothing. I was fine. Like, the next day after I had her, they checked my blood count. My doctor was like, you barely lost any blood. Like, your level is still basically the same. So, I mean, everything went fine. So yeah, that was my birth story. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what other videos you guys would like to see.